Today, I want to talk about Fenris, some of my updated thoughts about this character after seeing him being played, and, well, although I'd love to pull for him, anyways, point is, this character has some things to talk about, specifically in terms of how good people are seeing him perform and whether or not he's bait or not, etc. And more importantly, I do think we should kind of come to a more deep understanding about exactly what the potential behind this artifact is and whether or not he himself is even going to use it. Now, to be clear, I know what you're seeing on screen right now. These are 3 of his artifacts, and I don't even have him, which is kind of a blessing, but also a curse since I did want to see how much damage he did. However, I do have some clips here to kind of talk about and discuss Fenris specifically because I've been watching a bunch of people play him, and here are my thoughts. Initially, when I kind of reviewed him, it looked like he was somewhat of a nuker, and my kind of thoughts about this haven't really changed. He does have a bit of a different role as opposed to someone like Cavill, and although I initially compared him to someone like Cavill, the truth is that, well, in most cases, if you end up AoEing someone, or if you end up AoEing someone with specifically Fenris on the team, unless if you're for sure that he's not going to die, aka you give him something like Guiding Light or you make him tanky, there's a good chance that an Aiden, for instance, countering will just kill the Fenris. Now, with that out of the way, let's actually talk about Fenris and his gameplay and some of the different ways that I've seen him actually, I guess, be performed. So the first video that I have here, oh, I need to move this over for a second. Sorry, scuffed production. Is, oh, I don't know why this is weird scuffed sizing for it. Oh. Okay, well, all right, well, this isn't working very well, is it? Fit to screen? Okay, point is, if you take a look at what is going on the screen right now, the team comp that you even have to be picking this character into on your left side looks very different and very honestly kind of goofy. As you see here, there's Faithless Lytica, which is a character that some players have, but not many players have in general. And this is going to begin to kind of showcase what kind of character this Fenris character is. You do need some speed, and if you aren't using him in something like Guild War or Arena specifically, it looks like he is an okay kind of character, but it feels like you are going to have to use him against very odd teams. Now, for the team that I'm seeing right here, Faithless Lytica, Death Dealer Ray, and outside of maybe Commander Pavel, a lot of these characters are pretty difficult to get, and honestly, I don't really know if anyone still has a lot of these characters built or even invested in, but you can kind of see throughout this that, yeah, you have like the Faithless Lytica on screen, and she gets to use her S3, and because there's a counter here, from specifically the, I think it's the Garmin, right? Because he decides to S3. Yep, okay, so there's a, I don't even know what it's, Bad Cat. And because the Bad Cat is, forcing the forward character to perform a counterattack, and I don't even know what this Bad Cat is doing here, in all honesty, Fenris being able to cut up is really nice here, but the actual damage is not that impressive, relatively speaking, because look, there's a little bit of difference in terms of HP and damage dealt, and the damage dealt from Fenris will be pretty high, but truth be told, there isn't even a high health scaler here, so in terms of Fenris's value, he was an S2er that decided to push up, which is cool, but he's kind of enabling another character on his team that has fighting spirit, which is Commander Pavel. From this video, obviously the play here is to try and one-shot a character like, again, Inos or one of the higher HP characters. And although 21,000 HP is pretty respectable, that's not really the winning play here. And for all intents and purposes, this team probably killed anyways because, I mean, why is there a Bad Cat, Armin, and an Inos against the Cleave team? Now, you may be saying to yourself at this point, okay, Connor, this video might not be a good example, so I have another one. Let's take this video in another scenario, which basically describes yet another Cleave scenario, which is where Fenris will probably shine. But once again, look at the team composition that Fenris has to be put in order for him to even be successful. There's an opener Briar Witch here, and again, no disrespect to either side or either player, because sometimes you play to what you have on your account, but the teams don't look very normal. Characters like, I admit, Albedo do sound like they would kind of be punished by someone like Fenris, and even someone like Commander Pavel from the last video would also kind of punish characters like Albedo if you can time it alongside having things like defense breaks or things of that nature. But the average player is not going to have a Briar Witch Iseria that is faster than their Ran and is not always going to be playing Cleave, which, if you're trying to play Fenris as a non-Cleave character, could be a concern. Some players initially, may want to try and play this character as a more slower, like hidden DPS. And in some cases, you may consider, Fenris's ability to use Guiding Light valuable. But as far as you can see, or as far as I can tell from teams like this currently, there is no great spot for him to do this. Now, another thing to consider is that although certain other characters like Seaside Bologna or other slow rangers, for instance, may be able to be played slower, given the nature of his kit with combat readiness, his squishy stat line, and the fact that he doesn't have any sustainability in his kit right now, it feels like Fenris is dedicated only to cleaving. So with that out of the way, if you want to see how much his damage is or what utility he has in this match specifically I thought was pretty interesting, because you have the Briar Witch Iseria, and of course Albedo is going to be, AoEing, and Fenris is obviously played or used in this scenario to counter the fact that Albedo is guaranteed to counter Fenris. Now, again, what you'll probably see right here is, wait a second, Connor, that's a Fenris that's about to hit Cannaaaa. And I would agree with you. This is kind of concerning because, number one, Cannaaaa probably smashes any team that doesn't have, things like Unbuffable or Politis or, a water unit, and that's even 50-50, in order to counter him. But actually what was pretty cool about this fight is that, well, he ended up getting procced here, which is also kind of 50-50 because Fenris, of course, grass. But even despite the Cannaaaa proccing here, thankfully, because of the Veronica, she was able to push up and she cuts ahead. And then all of a sudden, the Cannaaaa is dead. But, of course, with the way that his kit works, Veronica had S3 here again because it's technically 2 vampirisms, which is even more goofy and kind of funny just in general. But for all intents and purposes, I think, though this is a decent showcase of Fenris, let's be honest, guys, right? Like, this was pretty much Veronica and a very odd-looking team, and Fenris, though powerful, was kind of just here to show off a little bit. Now, okay, maybe even at this point you're saying to yourself, Connor, this is still not a great showcase of Fenris. What about a third match? Well, now I have a team that involves Celine, who's pretty popular, Laia, one of the most picked characters ever, and then, well, in this case, there's a random Shaltir and a Lua. Lua's a bit more easygoing, and that's okay. But take a look at the team this time around. You have Ran, Politis, and you have, once again, Fenris on the team. And while this does look kind of interesting at first, because you're like, well, how is Fenris going to do any damage, to this team, or how is Fenris going to do anything? Well, technically speaking, if Celine uses her S2, it also counts as a counter, but you do have to kind of gamble with this, and I'm assuming in the time of this replay, he was checking to see what the S2 EE was specifically, and let's be clear, Fenris should have the highest attack on the team, but because of the fact that Fenris, or well, in most cases, Fenris should have the highest attack on the team, or near, if not equal to Ran. Fortunately, there was a random, hit here, and guess what? Fenris, or the EE was random, and Fenris was able to use his S2, and bing, bang, boom, with the Ran S3 here, the match is pretty much over, just because, well, Fenris is able to one-shot here, the Celine is pretty low, and Veronica can deal damage, and that's all she wrote. But, as with all kind of games, and as with all kind of matches when it comes to things like this, you're already seeing the kind of teams that Fenris is being paired with. It's very odd, unusual cleave compositions, and that's where I kind of want to talk about this character, period. Fenris, for all intents and purposes, if you want to use him for something like PvE, you do need to do a bit more research on him and kind of figure out what expeditions, what I guess hunts he may be powerful or strong in. But truth be told, since he has this AoE, maybe he's usable more in Rift as opposed to something like Banshee, which I think is pretty easy to kill in general nowadays. But let's actually take a moment to... Oh, actually, wait. I've got one more pull, and although you're going to say this is bad of me, just for you guys, if I end up getting Fenris, I'll Look, I'm showing you guys I'm dedicated to the craft, okay? So look, I was a little bit inefficient. Brief pause. Let's get Fenris. Did we get him? Well, those were all my sky stones, okay? So you guys can't even say I didn't try to pull for him. I really did. I really did try to pull for this guy. I'll probably get him throughout the week after, you know, arena and stuff. But sorry, I digress. What we need to actually talk about is this artifact, because this is the real high impact value here. Now, if you're someone that's been doing arena, you know that the name of the game right now is pick Emma Luna or pick characters that avoid cleave and prevent you from getting cleaved. But Harsetti's coming out, so okay, let's talk about everything before Harsetti comes out. In the current state, and as of right now, this patch, Fenris's artifact does have a lot of value if you're able to manipulate who you're fighting against, or if you're able to pre-plan who you're fighting against. If you're fighting against Emma Luna, it might be a little bit scuffed anyways. Emma Luna is going to unbuffable or remove any stealth from any ranger that would be fast enough anyways. But if for some reason you're using someone like Knockwall and she's tanky and you're not afraid of her dying, then, well, this is an increase of attack, and this also counts as a combat readiness push. That being said, the way that a lot of people are using Knockwall right now is as a slow, not necessarily slow, but a faster than everyone but the openers, and is used to, in most cases, seal someone like Navy Captain Landy or Janua, and that also comes with its own set of requirements. If you want to seal or have great value against someone like Janua or Navy Captain Landy, Senya, whoever it is, you'll have to actually abide by the fact that if you don't end up having Guiding Light on someone like Knockwall, well, you're not really going to have that much value on your Knockwall if she's just going to die in one turn anyways. That's kind of a big problem, and also why Renewed Will specifically may be good for some characters, even a character like Faithless Litica, assuming you don't have to fight against characters like Zio, but then you're addressing or coming up with one of the most toxic and disturbing arguments, or I guess conversations of all time when it comes to epicseven, and that's, are you fast enough? And that's where the whole crux of this argument of whether or not Fenris and his artifact is even good, it's, are you fast enough? Are you whale enough to make a character like Fenris good? And the answer is, well, I don't know what's on your account. And so therefore, it's not really easy to say that Renewed Will is OP or to say that Fenris is bad, right? If you're someone that's able to play fast and you're not afraid of dying, then, well, for all intents and purposes, Fenris is a nuke, and he's an AoE that also lets you CR push. And if you aren't someone that needs Guiding Light, well, this increase in damage from Renewed Will, or even running Fenris with not Guiding Light, but a damage dealing artifact that isn't Renewed Will also be very good, but depends on team, it depends on how you're using him. And that's why I think some people assessing Fenris right now are not necessarily giving him, or like the entire situation surrounding him, enough context. To be clear, and if you guys aren't familiar as well, I am a dirty cleaver. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I am atoning for my sins by making you aware of this. But unfortunately, as a dirty cleaver, this is not even an artifact that feels that easy to use, because if you're afraid of characters like Zio and you aren't pre-banning them, well, you're going to have to use Guiding Lights. And if you don't care and you pre-ban someone like Zio, well, enjoy dealing with Ilanov or Abyssal Yufine. That being said, though, guys, it is interesting that Fenris's kit doesn't revolve around defense pen, and that is something worth mentioning in comparison to someone like Commander Pavel, because Commander Pavel relies more on defense pen, whereas for Fenris, you are technically able to one-shot someone like Ilanov, since she isn't taking pen damage, she's taking additional damage. Now, again, to be clear, I definitely think that Fenris right now is interesting, but at most, I think he's extremely niche. I've seen a few showcases now at this point as well that kind of just have his team carry, like someone has like Knockwall, or they have like, you know, Green Pavel or something, or whatever the case is. And it feels like it's not really a Fenris showcase, it's a someone else showcase. And if that's the case, well, that means Fenris isn't that usable. He's okay, but not great. In any case, at the end of the day, I do think he'll probably be ending, or he'll end up being usable in some hunts or expeditions, and they showed him, even if I'm not mistaken, in some of the, in the Hall of Trials activity, which could make him interesting. But overall, he seems like a PvE character with a decent artifact if you're someone that is more whaley and, again, more speed focused. But I just wanted to reinforce that even after seeing a couple of people play this character, you have to be fighting a very weird looking team composition, even though his damage honestly is pretty decent, especially on his S3. And it does also have the benefit of not having to worry about characters that have defense pen built into their kit. But at the end of the day, guys, you know, if someone ends up throwing up a defense buff or something, it's not like you can now ignore this. Fenris is still going to have to abide by all the increases in damage, and he doesn't defense pen, so if you just have a lot of damage or if you're really tanky, well, good luck with Fenris's damage. Anyways, again, I apologize. I wish I could have shown you guys some more footage, specifically on my account of Fenris, but he just didn't want to come home and is artifacted instead. But yeah, in case you were curious about what builds that I've been seeing for him, I believe I have one more to show. Actually, wait, nope. Sorry. I have a damage. Well, the exact stats are roughly 5k 350, but I do also have a damage calc for roughly how much damage he was doing against a target. And again, in case you were wondering, 23.5k HP target that doesn't have Aureus on, and no defense buff with roughly, I believe it's like 1500 defense. This was doing 32.3k damage. Pretty decent, and the Soulburn S1 is also doing pretty good damage, but again, Fenris seems a little bit difficult to make work just because he has so many stipulations to his kit, you know? And when you have things like this that you have to deal with, and with considering how many like anti-cleave characters are in the game already, it feels like Fenris has a spot sometimes, but having a spot sometimes does not make you a great character. It makes you niche. And again, guys, like, the greater attack buff is amazing. The combat readiness push is amazing. And being able to counter characters that, of course, give you, you know, or that counter attack against you is also nice. But how is he going to survive? Are you sure that you won't die? Things like these are actually worth considering or looking into. And, well, to be honest, he doesn't seem that flexible. I said it. I apologize, guys, but that's just kind of how it is when it comes to Fenris. I don't think he's a scam. I think his artifact is decent. He could definitely use a little bit more love, and I haven't seen anyone right now use him in such a way that actually makes he himself look really impactful, as opposed to, again, just using someone like not Conqueror Lilius, Lionheart Sirmia, or using Commander Pavel. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks again for watching. Fenris, please come home. I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, good night. Bye-bye. Hi. Forgot to mention this very quickly because I know I'll get roasted if I don't mention it, but here were the builds for the Fenrises. This was one of the builds alongside the other, and both are basically on this 150 speed Destro pen build. Just a short aside talking about this and speaking to players that were testing out Fenris some more, it does feel like Destro is his best setup, and given that a lot of people do have some of these pieces, like this neck specifically over here, that doesn't really have a home since it's more damage oriented or damage focused right now, it does feel like Fenris not only can share some stats with, again, someone like Commander Pavel, or share some stats and some priorities with a Commander Pavel, it also does mean that, you know, you have some flexibility in his build. You can build him on Pen. I saw that some people were trying him on Torrent, but I actually found that Pen did way more damage, and whether you choose to run something like Elagos' artifact, or whether you choose to run something like, again, this backpack here, both are okay. But truth be told, I do think that arguably the most important thing here is making sure you cut when it comes to your speed, and also making sure you do enough damage. Now, if you want to run something like crit pen, or if you want to run something like attack and pen, that works as well. But in most cases, having an attack main neck or a crit damage neck or crit chance neck, either of those three ended up being fine. And then attack percent for sure on the ring, and then either attack percent or speed if you're a real giga, you know, optimizer like that. Could be the case for boot as well. But I apologize, forgot to include this in the video. Overall, I think his build has a lot of flexibility to it, although most of them are going to be damage focused and slower, but still fast enough to cut in most cases. Anyways, yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. Sorry, I just had to slip this in at the end. Goodbye. Bye-bye. See ya. Thank you for the people that sent in their footage, by the way. Bye-bye.